Double Reel put out a video about the 2008 Knight Rider show that lasted maybe like one season. And I've seen, yes. So they put out one of those. They put out the failure of Knight Rider 2008. So I thought it'd be good, be a nice little follow-up to the Knight Rider videos that we had seen before. Because, I did watch a couple of these episodes, and I could see the potential for it, but I was also seeing the wasted potential for it. So I wanted to check this out. So let's finish off with the failure of Knight Rider 2008.
What happens when a beloved 80s icon tries to come back to life for the third time? The last two attempts crashed and burned, but this time a major network, a Hollywood screenwriter, and a corporate giant like Ford were backing the revival. Fans were curious, the network was optimistic, until everything fell apart. So what went wrong? How did this Knight Rider continuation stall out after just one season? Let's find out. This is the failure of Knight Rider 2008.
Yeah, it wasn't bad, but wasn't great.
Back in 1982, Knight Rider wasn't just another action show, it was a phenomenon. Created by Glenn A. Larson, it introduced the world to Michael Knight, a lone crusader with a cutting-edge partner, the Knight Industries 2000. Kit was more than just a car, he was the ultimate co-star, an indestructible artificially intelligent machine with a sarcastic wit and unwavering loyalty to its driver. At a time when futuristic technology was still the stuff of imagination, Knight Rider felt ahead of its time. Kit could drive itself, talk.
Wait.
Of imagination, Knight Rider felt ahead of its time. Kit could drive.
Oh my god, can you see that? There's the driver. You could see the driver. Right there. There is the driver. That's his hand. That's the stunt driver laying down in the car. There's his hand right there. I caught a flash of it when he was going by. There he is. I bet he's laying down. Oh, wait. I bet he's laying down. They probably have something rigged up between the seats. And he's laying down. They might have a camera on the front of the car. And there he is. That's the driver driving Kit, the stunt driver.
Kit could drive itself, talk, analyze threats, and jump over obstacles, all while making sure Michael Knight stayed alive to fight another day. The chemistry between David Hasselhoff and Kit, brought to life by William Daniels, made the show more than just an action-packed spectacle. It had personality, charm.
By the way, can I also point out,
made the show more than just an action-packed.
They also, I think, kind of introduced that. This is, I think, where, wasn't this around the time back in the 80s when they started doing, walkie-talkie wristwatches, too, that were inspired by Knight Rider? I vaguely recall seeing some kind of advertisement, scrolling through social media, seeing, old advertisements, I think for legit walkie-talkie watches? But yeah, calculator watches were huge back then. Those are the kind what Tim had on The Office when he was pretending to be Dwight. He had a calculator watch. But I seem to recall seeing an advertisement for an actual walkie-talkie watch. And I'm betting that was inspired by Knight Rider.
Packed spectacle. It had personality, charm, and a sense of adventure that set it apart from anything else on TV. Even after the show ended in 1986, Knight Rider refused to fade into obscurity. Reruns, merchandise, and fan conventions kept the legacy alive, and the dream of seeing Michael and Kit back on screen never fully disappeared. Over the years, there had been attempts to recapture the magic with spin-offs like Knight Rider 2000 and Team Knight Rider, but nothing quite lived up to the original. By the mid-2000s, NBC saw an opportunity. The network was struggling, and classic franchises were being revived left and right. Audiences had embraced the return of Battlestar Galactica and Transformers, and with technology finally catching up to the show's original vision, it seemed like the perfect time for Knight Rider to ride again.
Here we go.
No need. He'll take care of it.
Don't even think about it.
According to David Hasselhoff, the return of Knight Rider was his idea. He pitched a revival to NBC, envisioning a new generation of high-tech crime fighting.
Wait, was Hasselhoff credited as some kind of producer? I don't recall, but was he credited as producer? Okay. Yeah, and I also remember that I vaguely remember Knight Rider 2000, I think, came out when this was a way for Ford. This was when Ford brought back the Mustang. This was about the time when Ford brought back the Mustang in its traditional look. Because up to this point, hang on, up to this point, let's see. Mustangs looked like this. Up to this point, Mustangs had this non-very inspired look. You know, the Mustangs did not look great. And 2008 was around the time when Ford, in a big show, brought back the OG retro-looking. That's I said around the time street. They brought back the OG retro-looking Mustang that we still see today. But 2008, I think, is when Ford announced that they were bringing back the Shelby. If my memory serves correctly, 2008 is when Ford, like the Mustang had been brought back in the retro look already. I'm pretty sure 2008 is when Ford made that big announcement that they were bringing back the Shelby GT500. I think. And this was a way for them to promote bringing back the Shelby. Yeah, it's Radio Street. Yeah, 2008. This was a way for Ford to promote them bringing back the Shelby. Yeah, it was free advertising for them because it was a hot car, and they were going to, people were going to want it because of Knight Rider, because, you know, let's face it, Knight Rider kicked off a lot of people getting a Pontiac Firebird. They were probably hoping to do the same thing here.
Michael Knight leading the way, but when NBC got back to him, they had a different plan. Regardless of who sparked the idea, the project gained serious momentum when Ford got involved. Ford had recently launched its Mustang Shelby GT500 KR, and they believed it could be the perfect modern successor to the original Trans Am. With NBC eager to capitalize on a known brand and Ford ready to push its latest vehicle into pop culture, the project was officially greenlit.
I think that sounds about right, Jake.
But the network wasn't ready to jump straight into a full series. Instead, they took a different approach. Rather than immediately committing to a weekly series, NBC decided to test the waters first. Instead of a traditional pilot episode, they would introduce the new Knight Rider through a 2-hour TV movie, a backdoor pilot designed to gauge audience interest before a full series order. To ensure the project had credibility, NBC brought in executive producers Doug Liman and Dave Bardis, both of whom had experience with high-energy action storytelling.
Well, okay, Revan, you're talking about, like, better than the Viper TV show. The Viper TV show came out, what? Early 90s or early 2000s? You know, computer-generated FX came a lot, like, took a serious leap forward in, you know, from 2000 2008. There was a big change up in special effects from 2000 2008. Backdoor testing? Codes. Well, I mean, great matter. Like he did say it was like a backdoor pilot, and they were going to test audiences to see if they could spin this into a show. I mean, kind of fits.
With the Knight Rider revival officially moving forward, the next step was crucial: finding the right cast. The original series had worked largely because of David Hasselhoff's undeniable charisma and the unforgettable voice of William Daniels as Kit. This time around, NBC needed a new lead who could carry the show and a voice for the updated Kit that could live up to its predecessor. The biggest casting decision was, of course, the new driver. Instead of bringing back Michael Knight,
Is that James Marsden? Is this fucking James Marsden? No? Okay, it looks a lot like him.
NBC decided to introduce a new protagonist, his estranged son. It was a bold move, one that allowed the show to stay connected to the original while also giving it room to grow. But it also meant filling the shoes of an icon, and that was no small task. NBC decided to cast Justin Bruning in the lead role as Mike Tracer.
Justin
A former
Bruning.
soap opera star best known for his work on All My Children, Bruning had the good looks and action star potential NBC was looking for. NBC also brought in Bruce Davison as Charles Grayman, the scientist supposedly responsible for developing the original and new Kit. Alongside him was Deanna Russo as Sarah Grayman, his daughter, and Mike's primary love interest. Originally, Will Arnett had been hired to provide the voice of Kit until Ford stepped in. At the time, Arnett was also the voice of General Motors commercials, and since Knight Rider was heavily tied to Ford's Mustang, this created a
I'm
direct
trying to remember, like, they supposedly got a big voice to do Kit. I thought it was Will Arnett, but I'm trying to remember who they did it. That's like, the person that they got to voice Kit didn't work. No, they didn't get Val Kilmer. Wait. Was it Val Kilmer? Really? Was it? Am I misremembering? I didn't think it was Val Kilmer. Hang on.
conflict. At the last minute, Arnett was dropped from the role, and Val Kilmer was brought in as the new voice of Kit.
You're right.
It's the most advanced car ever developed.
I don't remember his voice being used. Hang on.
Its power is unmatched.
This new version of Kit maintained the black exterior and red scanner light, keeping visual ties to the past while embracing an updated, more aggressive aesthetic. In the pilot movie, Kit was shown to have a similar AI to the original, allowing it to drive on its own and analyze threats. Some of his new features included nanotechnology, which gave Kit self-repair abilities and a full windshield touch-enabled heads-up display.
Yeah, this was a time, like 2008, Hollywood was big into the whole nanotech. That was a big, like 2008, 2010, Hollywood loved fucking nanotech. They went all in on that. So, like, literally every sci-fi, it's still present, but they put nanotech into, like, fucking everything. All their sci-fi shows and movies in 2008, 2010, they went fucking schizo with the nanotech stuff. Yes, it's still around. They still they still do the whole nanotech thing, but they went crazy with the nanotech stuff back for this. And I actually didn't like the whole nanotech thing for Kit's skin. Instead of just making it fucking bulletproof, like with the original Kit, like the heads-up display, the touchscreen display on the interior of the windshield, that's fine. I didn't like the nanotech skin, but the purpose for that was so they could have it transform into another fucking Ford vehicle. Well, that's the thing, Revan. It wouldn't make it bulletproof. Watch.
Gave Kit self-repair abilities and a full windshield.
It doesn't make it bulletproof, it makes it repairable, which means by all rights, this should punch through, and then the skin would heal itself. So it's like, that was their whole thing. It's like, oh, it's nanotech, so it's self-repairing, but it didn't, that shouldn't have made it tougher. It should just made it, like, the ability to self-heal.
Windshield touch enabled heads-up display. Kit could also transform into attack mode, which was like the newer version of Super Pursuit mode. Despite the updates, some key elements of the original Kit were absent in the pilot movie. The iconic turbo boost and ski mode were not featured in this initial outing, as well as Kit's iconic scanner sound and voice modulator were also missing. Additionally, extreme action elements such as high-speed jumps and chase sequences were relatively subdued. The reboot attempted to modernize one of the most recognizable elements of Knight Rider, its iconic theme song. While the core melody kind of remained intact, the new version stripped away much of the original's distinct pulsating synth sound.
Hello.
Hello, Sarah. I know your father. He has sent me to find you.
If my father sent you, he would have given you a code word.
He did. The code word is night.
When Knight Rider...
See, that doesn't sound like Val Kilmer. Listen, that doesn't sound like Val Kilmer.
If my father sent you, he would have given you a code word.
He did. The code word is night.
When Knight...
Maybe it's the voice modulator that they use. That didn't sound like him. Am I crazy? Am I crazy? But that did not sound like Val Kilmer. Yeah, but this was 2008 before he had those vocal issues. He did not have issues with his voice back in 2008. And G10, you could be right. You could, maybe. Maybe. I don't know. But, okay, Kaibo, yes, I know. But they didn't use a voice changer with Val Kilmer. They just used something to make him sound like synthesized.
Knight Rider returned to television with its 2-hour pilot movie. It performed well in the ratings, attracting 12.7 million viewers, a strong number for a television special. NBC executives saw this as a clear sign that there was enough demand to move forward. Shortly after the broadcast, the network officially greenlit a full season, initially ordering 13 episodes to air later that year. Despite its success and
yeah, like Reaper, I remember seeing the pilot movie, and I remember seeing 1 or 2 of the episodes when the series first launched, and then I kind of lost interest to it because the car was cool. I love the frickin' Mustang. Okay, I love Mustangs. I think Mustangs are awesome cars. The story really lost me. I didn't like the acting. The 2 lead actors just did not grab me. They didn't grab me. They didn't keep my attention. They didn't interest me like the way Michael Knight did with old reruns of the original Knight Rider that I'd seen. So it would be a toss-up between, if you're talking about modern cars, today, it would probably be a toss-up if weather was not a consideration, because I always have to take weather in consideration. If weather was not a consideration, it would be either a Mustang or a Dodge Challenger. That would be, now, that's for modern. If we're talking past, OG Charger, OG, like Dukes of Hazzard Charger, or 67 Mustang Shelby GT500 Cobra. Those would be my 2 dream cars, I think. If I had, yes, I liked Eleanor. Yes, I fucking drooled over Eleanor. That's why I squeed when Ford announced they were bringing back the Shelby GT. Okay, gray matter. The Hemi Cuda is a very close third. That is a very close third.
viewership numbers, reactions to the pilot movie were mixed. Some longtime fans were thrilled to see Knight Rider return, appreciating David Hasselhoff's cameo as Michael Knight and the acknowledgement of the original show's legacy.
Like, okay, chat, tell me this doesn't look like James Marsden. Can you see why I thought this might have been James Marsden? Does he not look a lot like him? Am I just crazy? Am I crazy? It's kind of in the face. Hang on. That's not the, okay. Oh, it's Marsden. Yeah. Tell me you're not seeing some similarities there. Okay, tell me you don't see some similarities here. Like, okay, yeah, well, he's, with the way he's smiley, he's fucking up his jaw, but do you see why I could, I mean, look! Yeah, you can see why I might have, like, thought, oh, that's James Marsden. Here, hang on. Here? Look, here. Here? Here. Tell me that there's not at least a similarity that can make you think, oh, that's there's a similarity there. It's understandable that I might have thought that was James Marsden. I'm going to defend myself on this.
And hoped he would come back later in the show. Others, however, were more critical of the changes, particularly the shift in tone and Kit's new portrayal. Despite these criticisms, NBC was confident in the series' potential. On October 21st, 2008, the network...
Oh, and by the way, you want to know how desperate this show was? I remember the very first episode of the series. Or it was either the very first episode or the second episode of when it went to a TV series. Okay, my cargo. They opened up the show with the two of them in Kit running away from bad guys. The bad guys shoot Kit with some kind of basically fucking napalm that was sticking to the car that he couldn't put out. Yeah, huh? And basically the interior, and it was sticking to the car and heating up the interior. So to counteract this, the two of them started stripping. So of course she's stripping to her bra and panties in the car on screen. 2008. Oh yeah, she's definitely hot enough, but it kind of tells you tells you where their desperation came from.
Network expanded its order to a full season of 22 episodes, committing fully to the reboot. The transition from a 2-hour TV movie to a full weekly series brought major changes behind the scenes, starting with the appointment of Gary Scott Thompson as the new executive producer and showrunner. Thompson was best known for writing The Fast and the Furious, a franchise that had already reshaped Hollywood's approach to high-speed action. NBC likely hoped that his experience with car-centric storytelling and action-driven narratives would modernize Knight Rider for a new generation. In an interview at the time, he stated that he wanted to bring David Hasselhoff back for another appearance, emphasizing that it needed to be meaningful rather than just a cameo. Thompson explained that he was actively working on a way to integrate
so he wasn't in the pilot movie, he was in the series. Is that correct, Shadow's name? Shadows, he was brought in. So he did the voice of Kit for the series, but not for the pilot movie. Okay, that's probably why because again, I remember very little about the TV series. It wasn't enjoyable. I mostly remember the 2-hour pilot movie.
Hasselhoff into the story, wanting his return to serve a real purpose in the plot, rather than just being fan service. At one point, discussions were even held between Hasselhoff and NBC to explore possibilities for his character's return. However, despite this initial interest, Hasselhoff's further involvement never materialized.
Really?
Beyond the discussion of Hasselhoff,
how the hell were they able to run lines and edit it in 2 weeks before the pilot movie release? How the hell did they do that? It was 2 weeks before the pilot. If he was only brought in 2 weeks before the pilot movie released, how the hell would he have been able to run lines record and edit that in 2 weeks? There's no way. There's no way they could have done that.
Thompson oversaw several structural changes to the show's format. The original Knight Rider had thrived on the lone wolf crime fighter concept, but the reboot moved away from that formula by introducing a larger support team. Now operating under Knight Industries Research and Development,
this is the episode
organization functioned as a full-scale intelligence operation.
See,
Sarah Grayman.
Yeah, see, you can see it right here.
The organization functioned as a full-scale intelligence.
Yeah, right there. You can see they're wearing their underwear. And of course, she's wearing like boy shorts for her panties. Yeah, this was the episode where they came in and she was they had to strip down because the inside of the car was getting too hot because the car was on fire.
scale intelligence operation. Sarah Grayman, who had been a central figure in the pilot, took on a more expanded role as both Kit's handler and a key operative within the organization. Her father, Dr. Charles Grayman, remained as the scientific genius behind Kit. Other new additions rounded out the government-backed team. FBI agent Carrie Revi and NSA agent Alex Torres were now central figures, overseeing Kit's missions and ensuring federal oversight of the operation. Tech specialists Billy and Zoe were brought in to handle mission support, with their interactions often injecting moments of humor. These changes moved Knight Rider further from the original concept of an independent hero and his car. As the series launched, Kit also underwent several modifications. While the Ford Mustang Shelby GT500 retained its core design from the pilot, new abilities were introduced that had not been present in the initial film. Kit's scanner sound was introduced and attack mode was altered. Another significant upgrade was the return of Turbo Boost. These additions attempted to make the car more dynamic, addressing some of the criticisms that the pilot had received for failing to showcase Kit's full range of abilities.
Too little, too late?
The network believed that with a modernized Kit, a larger ensemble cast, and high-octane action sequences, the series could become a long-running success. However, while expectations were...
Therein lies the problem, is, he said it earlier, it is very often it was Kit and Michael on their own. It was basically a duo trying to solve a case. And now you've got a whole fucking team that is constantly a part of all of this. The stakes were much lower. They, at the drop of a hat, they could just call in backup from anywhere. Whereas with the original show, they were on their own. And they had to rely upon their wits and intelligence. Both Kit and Michael had to basically, rely upon their wits, their intellect, their adaptability to figure things out. That all went away, and it became popcorn entertainment. They did popcorn entertainment.
In the pilot movie, Kit only had 100 total lines, so adding that in last minute wouldn't have been too hard.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, basically, Grindhouse, you're right. The original was very much like a buddy cop show. And that was lost because now they basically took Knight Rider 2000 and Team Knight Rider and smushed them together, is what happened here, just with a different cast. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying, Xanax. They took those two concepts and smushed them together and said, here's our show. And that's why it lasted a season.
Were high, the show soon ran into major problems, both behind the scenes and with its audience. From creative conflicts to fan dissatisfaction, the series found itself on unstable ground almost immediately. One of the biggest issues stemmed from the changes to the show's format. Unlike the original Knight Rider, which focused mainly on Michael Knight as a lone hero with Kit and a small supporting cast in the background, the reboot decided to introduce a government-controlled operation. This introduced multiple team members, which shifted the show's tone away from the independent crime-fighting premise that had made the original series so engaging.
Well, and again, it also lowered the stakes. If memory serves, the whole concept of Knight Rider is it was a private organization. Knight Rider was not correct me if I'm wrong, chat. The original Knight Rider was not part of the government. The original Knight Rider was part of a private organization, the Knight Group. And it was just basically the mysterious, Mr. Knight, who was basically, created Kit for him to basically go out and do good. When you add in the government on this with government oversight, the stakes go way down. As a private individual operating outside the law, he has no backup. He's got to basically figure it out himself. Then you bring it in the government, it's like, well, what are the stakes? Yeah, he's got a high-tech car, but at any time, he can call in any number of the alphabet agencies to help him out. And so, now the stakes are way lower because he literally has backup at any point he needs it. And you have you have a huge ensemble cast, which takes away from what made Knight Rider great, which was Michael and Kit. You had those two. And what everybody tuned into Knight Rider for was the two of them playing off one another. Their interplay, their conversations, their chemistry. Michael and Kit had chemistry. You didn't get any of that with 2000. None of it.
It diluted the core
Although the
dynamic
government eventually getting involved makes sense since it's the same continuity many years later, so at least it's consistent.
Yeah, it makes sense, Revan, but they could have easily written it up so that the government tried to get involved. Knight Industries basically went underground, rebranded, and now they're reemerging as a whole different company, and they're resuming the Knight Project. And thus Knight Rider is born. They could have done it without the government intervention thing. But yeah, William Daniels being the voice of Kit was good, but because it was always just Michael and Kit, it allowed for the two of them to play off one another every episode. When you have a monster ensemble cast, Kit is getting very few voice lines in, and so thus you're not getting the interplay was between these two, not him and Kit. That was the problem. She basically replaced Kit in terms of the quote-unquote duo and chemistry. Kit was basically a third wheel in this, and people did not like that.
between Mike and Kit, making the show feel more like a standard action series rather than a modern take on Knight Rider.
Yes.
Kit's
Hey, Shadows,
personality was also a key point of contention.
Shit, I'm pausing a lot. I'm sorry. Yeah, Michael's Knight. Knight was not even his last name. Knight is basically like a code name. David Hasselhoff's character was Michael something. I forget what his original last name was. It was not Knight though. But when he was a police officer, something happened that caused him severe injury. Knight Industries got a hold of him, gave him plastic surgery to make him look like David Hasselhoff, and he basically received a new identity of Michael Knight. So the last name of Knight effectively became a code name because his name ended up being Michael Knight. Okay, they changed his name to Michael Knight also to maintain that kind of identity.
While the pilot movie had already introduced a more robotic and detached AI, the full series doubled down on this interpretation. The sarcastic and opinionated personality of the original Kit, which had made the character so memorable in the 1982 series, was completely absent. Val Kilmer's portrayal of Kit was cold and purely functional, which many fans felt reduced the car's role from a co-star to little more than an advanced GPS system. Acting also became a target for criticism. While Justin Bruning had been given the difficult task of following in David Hasselhoff's footsteps, some viewers felt he lacked the charisma necessary to carry the show. His performance was described by some critics as wooden and lacking depth, making it difficult for audiences to connect with Mike Knight as a leading character. Additionally, the supporting cast failed to make a significant impact, with some characters feeling underdeveloped and unnecessary to the overall narrative. Another problem was the reliance on CGI and green screen. The original Knight Rider had relied mostly on practical effects, miniatures, and real stunt work, giving the car chases and action sequences a tangible, grounded feel. In contrast, the 2008 reboot leaned heavily on cheap computer-generated effects, which many viewers found excessive and distracting. Kit's ability to transform into any Ford model felt unnecessary and poorly executed. Despite NBC's initial enthusiasm, the ratings began to decline after the first few episodes.
His transformation was pure product placement.
The network and the producers attempted a mid-season revamp in an effort to bring the series closer to the spirit of the original show. The most significant changes came in episodes 11 and 12, where the series shifted away from its team-based, government-backed format and began focusing more on Mike and Kit operating independently. In episode 11, day turns into night.
Now, I suspect that was direction. I don't think it's he didn't have enthusiasm. I think they actually directed him to speak more level-toned, robotically, and not put personality. I honestly don't think he just phoned it in for the check. I do think it was his direction. I think he was directed to do so because these are people that didn't understand. This is 2008 when they were revamping old products. They just did not understand what made Knight Rider great. So I don't believe that was Val Kilmer phoning it in. I don't believe that.
Major characters were removed. Dr. Charles Grayman was killed off, marking the end of his role in Kit's creation and setting the stage for the dismantling of the SSC. FBI agent Carrie Revi was critically injured during this episode and never appeared again, with her departure left unaddressed in the show's narrative. Episode 12, Knight to King's Pawn, accelerated these changes as the NSA took control of Kit, leading to the removal of NSA agent Alex Torres and signaling the end of the government's direct involvement in Kit's missions. This episode also saw the return of Carr, once again voiced by Peter Cullen, reprising his role from the original series.
Wait! Peter Cullen did the voice of Carr? Are you fucking kidding me? Optimus fucking Prime was the voice of Carr. I did not know that. Fucking based. Fucked. Okay, they got one fucking thing right. What?
However, this version of Carr was drastically different, now capable of
Thank you,
transforming into a
Soggy
robot.
Peanut.
While some fans appreciated the return of Cullen's voice, many criticized the robotic transformation, feeling it deviated too much from Carr's original concept and
Wait.
turning into a robot.
They turned Carr into a transformer being voiced by Optimus Prime himself. I never saw this episode. I had no idea they brought Carr back. But they turned Carr into a transformer and Peter Cullen himself voiced it. Because of, I guarantee you, they did this because Peter Cullen agreed to come back as Carr. They had to have done this specifically because Peter Cullen said, yes, I'll come back.
While some fans appreciated the return of Cullen's voice, many criticized the robotic transformation, feeling it deviated too much from Carr's original concept and was unnecessary. By episode 13, the transformation of the series was complete. The show moved away from the procedural spy thriller elements that had defined its earlier episodes. Instead of working directly for agencies like the NSA and FBI, Mike and Kit were now handling more self-contained missions, assisting everyday people in need, a direct callback to the original Knight Rider premise. Despite these efforts, there was no saving Knight Rider. NBC's confidence in the show had waned, and on December 3rd,
I mean, this was too little too late. Them doing this by episode 13 was too little too late and people turned away. If they had done this from the very beginning, they probably could have, the show probably would have been quite good. But they didn't. They decided to go whole hog, and the show suffered because of it. And by this point, too late.
2008, the network officially cut the season order from 22 episodes down to 17, signaling that cancellation was imminent. On May 19th, 2009, NBC officially canceled Knight Rider after just one season. The final episode aired on March 4th, 2009, marking the end of yet another attempt to revive the franchise.
Yeah, they didn't recognize the problem until way too late.
In the aftermath, fans debated what had gone wrong. While many blamed the writing and changes to the core Knight Rider formula, others pointed out that the show had been doomed from the start due to its poor time slot. Some behind-the-scenes reports suggested that NBC's own interference had played a role in the show's downfall. While Gary Scott Thompson was the executive producer,
Peter
insiders
Cullen was
later
inspired
revealed
by his brother who served in the Vietnam War. He said that the way his brother spoke inspired him to do Optimus' voice and character.
I saw that interview too, RoboSpark. I did, I saw that too. And Josh, thank you for the gifted.
That the network had imposed several mandates that ultimately hurt the series, including the emphasis on CGI transformations, the decision to make Kit a government asset, and the lack of a clear connection to Flag, Devon Miles.
Honestly, I think if they'd been able to tap Peter Cullum to voice Kit from the very beginning, Peter Cullum voicing Kit instead of Val Kilmer, I think would have been awesome. Like if they'd gone that route from the very beginning, that might have helped. But now I understand why they brought him back for Carr because he voiced Carr, but they could have twisted that. Like, okay, with the introducing Peter Cullum, Cullum's voice as Kit, and somebody goes, wait a minute, that sounds like Carr. It's like, no, we just use his voice module from the old files. We couldn't get Kit's voice module. We couldn't get Kit's voice module from the old files, so we had to use Carr's. We were able to dig those up, and Peter Cullum as Kit could have been fucking awesome. It is such a missed opportunity. I would have loved to have heard the interplay between Michael Knight and Peter Cullum as Kit. That would have been epic.
Miles, or other characters or elements from the original show. So to answer the question we posed at the beginning, why did Knight Rider 2008 fail? The answer is simple. The heart of Knight Rider wasn't just about high-tech cars or flashy action sequences. It was about a man, his mission, and the bond he shared with the most intelligent car ever built. And in trying to reinvent that legacy for a modern audience, NBC lost sight of the very thing that made it special in the first place. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more awesome content.
That was fun. Did go a bit longer than I thought, but yeah, that was fun. That was a nice little trip down memory lane, and a couple things I didn't know about the show. I liked it. It's also a little heartbreaking because you can see almost immediately where they went wrong on it. And by the time they figure it out, it was too late, which is unfortunate.